大家午安。今天早上呢，因为主任他在校外有一个评审，所以他叫我带他简单的做一个介绍。那其实威尔森教授，我想大家都很熟悉哈。几年前他从很远的地方来到台湾。那想当初我在跟他联系的时候，他在香港的艺术节有音乐会。那后来呢，我就继续的追踪疫情期间呢，他跑去意大利，后来又跑去法国，所以又回到德国，所以好不容易我们请他来。那我们都知道他是国际指挥，他在全世界指挥了至少有140个知名的乐团。那他也在歌剧院里面工作了很长的时间。那他对于宗教作品也非常的熟悉，因为我跟他聊天当中，我觉得我学到很多东西，因为他知道的曲目真的是非常非常的广，超乎我们在音乐史、音乐学所有的课本里面所能学到的东西，因为他有很多现场的这种临场的这些经验。我还印象当中，我跟Professor Wilson 提到说，我在某一次的这个校外的一个讲座上面，我要提到Lohengrin, right? Lohengrin, Wagner's opera, right? Wagner's Lohengrin. OK. 然后呢，我很意外的是，这个 Professor Wilson 他马上就跟我说以前有一个指挥，他在指挥这场歌剧的时候呢，碰到了一些什么有趣的事情，然后那个男高音呢，还一脚踢到了那个木船马上痛得不得了，可是在舞台上又不能作声，就只好忍痛的继续这个演唱下去。我觉得哇，他所有的故事通通都记在脑海里面。那么今天呢，他要以 God in Music， 我很好奇，我问他你要讲什么，他说 sort of。所以我非常的好奇，那我也希望大家能够抱着非常这个高度的这个专注力，我们耐心来听听看今天Professor Wilson 有些什么样的故事。我们以热烈掌声欢迎 Professor Wilson。
Mr. President, faculty and students, thank you for coming to my lecture, God in Music. Those of you who know me in my lectures and my classes know that I hate reading from a script. But just for the introduction of this lecture, I just want to read out something that I wrote, just so I don't mess it up. And then I'm not going to read anymore. Correct. The title is God in Music. Through this presentation, I would like to highlight the influence of the most important movement and the greatest religion of the world, Christianity, and its influence on composers. From the majesty and merciful, all-knowing Creator, God, to Mary becoming the world's deliverer or the Son of God. This is only a few of the composer's depictions of the glory and holiness, which is the magnificence of the faith of Catholicism. My hope is to show, especially non-believers in the audience, that the passion and suffering of Christ and the Holy Mother turn the real focus of Christianity where it truly is, on us normal people. That through the suffering of Christ and Mary, we see ourselves and can appreciate through those visions the meaning of compassion, mercy, hope, love, and redemption, which in the end are the most important virtues of the Church and Christ's teachings. It is no coincidence that the most beautiful religion inspired some of the most beautiful music. So, with that, I wanted to divide this lecture into 7 parts and play a lot of music. I don't want to talk too much. The birth of Jesus, the celebration of Christ, the Redeemer, that might be sort of a hard word, Christ the Redeemer, sort of the celebration that he is the Son of God. The Requiem, or Mass of the Dead, the Passion and the Suffering of Christ, the Suffering of Mary, assume you know who Mary is. Mary is the mother of God. More personal depictions from composers, which are sort of a little bit strange. And in the end, paradise itself. So let's go right to it. Let's start with the birth of Christ. And start early from Victoria. The composer's name is Victoria. O Magnum Mysterio. This is for a cappella choir. Basically, it translates to, oh, great mystery. Animals get to see the newborn baby. It's a very pretty scene. The baby Jesus there, the animals and everything else. And this is just a short clip. This is all the way back from 1592. This is quite old. As we go through this lecture, I want you to keep one thing in mind. You can make the distinction of whether composers are being inspired. In some areas, you might even say, spoken directly from God. There are some pieces, the Bach B minor Mass is one, where you just think, this person has a direct communication to God. It's not inspiration, it is actual divinity. But the idea is you can keep this idea. Oh, should this be better?
Hello.
Can you hear me? You can hear me. Next, I want to jump all the way to the 20th century. Many of you might know this, especially if you sang in the choir. In the 14th century, Geoffrey Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales, and later on, Benjamin Britten set some of those tales to music with the most unusual setting of children and harp. We know this as the ceremony of carols. So I'd like to play now, again, we're still with the birth of Jesus. This little babe, I can't remember, I think it's the third one of the set. This is particularly interesting because this little babe, so few days old, who comes to ride full Satan's fold, meaning even this little baby, just by being here, has already conquered the devil, just by his being here. It's quite a beautiful little poem. What's interesting about this, this piece is that then the children are divided into three. So you have the melody, and then it repeats. But it's in a canon, not a canon, a round, so that the second part is slightly behind the first part, right? And then it happens a third time with the third one, so that each one is slightly behind the other, making a terrific echo sound. This is what I was always told in choir, that these are the echoes. I believe now that it was Britten's way of signifying the Holy Trinity, right? God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And this is why it is the three. This is my own personal, you can decide for yourself. But this is Britten from Canterbury, from Chaucer, this little babe. Staying in the 20th century, a composer many of you will not know, maybe not know yet, Olivier Messiaen, French composer, extremely religious, wrote a set of piano pieces called 20 Visions of the Baby Jesus. It's a magnum opus, well over, it's got to be almost 3 hours, right? It's just goes forever. But just 20 visions of the baby Jesus. And I just want to play just the smallest part from the 15th vision, which is called The Kiss of the Baby Jesus. Think of this as, again, this is only for piano. I've played this. It's the only one I can play. All the others are so difficult. More than a piece, I consider this a meditation. It's sort of timeless. As I said, it's more of a timeless meditation, and it just keeps going like this. And a most unusual title, The Kiss of the Baby Jesus. Like Debussy, very unusual titles. Now let's skip ahead. This is the celebration of Christ the Redeemer. I can't really go into all the details, we just don't have time, but this is the idea that after the death and resurrection of Christ, that he is the true Son of God, sits at the right hand of God, and is truly our Redeemer, has died for our sins. That is an amazing concept. He died for us. That's a big sacrifice. So, but during this time, this is sort of basically celebrating his life. And the best way to show that is the Bach Magnificat, the opening. And we'll see here how in typical Baroque fashion, it's flourished with trumpets and timpani and everything, just as a celebration should be. one person that does not feel redeemed in all of that is the trumpet player. He is suffering, or she, I can tell you, playing that high. As I mentioned before, the Bach B minor Mass is, if you would have to choose, if you were to say, what piece came directly from God? It wouldn't be Beethoven Ninth Symphony. It wouldn't be Mozart Requiem. It would be the B minor Mass of Bach. An unbelievably deep look into the future, the emotions. It is just simply one of the greatest opuses ever written. Part of the Mass is something called Et Incarnatus Est. Right? Remember, the Mass is always spoken or sung in Latin. Basically what that means is, and was embodied in flesh, skin and bones, from the Holy Spirit of the Virgin Mary. The last part I'll say. This is Et Incarnatus Est. It is not very celebratory. It's already looking at a sadness of the life of Christ. That just for a moment, because I've not given you the entitled text, the total text. It came from the Holy Spirit through the Virgin Mary, right? To become a man. And Bach has not said that yet. In the most incredible chromaticism now he's going to say the words, to become a human being, to become a man. It's still the same basic working blocks of music, but now you're going to see the chromaticism that lifts, you can almost feel like clay. Now a human person is going to be born out of this. This is still the same thing, I'm just going on. to become a man. Next, just a short piece of Allegri. Some of you may know this. This is just Miserere me, have mercy on me, cleanse me of my sin. Just to have another idea of earlier music. Skip back to the 20th century. Francis Poulenc wrote a Gloria, which is sort of a happy piece in the Latin tradition. I just want to play a little bit of for you from the Agnus Dei. I won't say anything about it. Let me just play it for you. This is again still in the celebration of Christ category. Actually, since the president has to leave early, I want to just I just want to go to a different part first and then come back. Let me talk about that's the end of the celebration of Christ. Later I'm going to talk about the suffering of Jesus himself. But right now I want to talk about the suffering of his mother. Now, I want you to picture this. You are the mother of a child and you have to watch him die slowly, knowing that what you are doing is in the name of God, knowing that by his dying, by his sacrificing himself, he is literally saving the world. But as a mother, you still have to watch. All right. Let me just read a little bit about Mary. As the mother of Jesus Christ, Mary played a central role in God's plan for human salvation. Her faithfulness, devotion, and suffering served as a model for believers, highlighting the importance of perseverance, trust, and faith in God, even in the midst of great difficulty. Mary's example also reminds us of the reality of human suffering and the importance of empathy and compassion, as well as the redemptive power of Christ's death and resurrection. I want to play you two pieces now from two Stabat Maters. Stabat Mater means It's very simple. It just means that Mary was standing there as he was being crucified. The first one is from Pergolesi, which is a duet between soprano and mezzo-soprano. This is from the title is Quis est homo. What that means, it's sort of interesting. Who is the man that can see this suffering woman and not have compassion? Show me that man who cannot have compassion for this poor woman. So this is Pergolesi, Quis est homo. About a year ago, I was looking through some things and I love finding new music. And I found the music of a Polish composer named Karol Szymanowski. A really fascinating, brilliant composer. First I found the opera King Roger, which is also sort of religious, but that's not the point. Szymanowski also wrote a Stabat Mater, which I have to say now, since finding it, has become one of my all-time favorite pieces. Now it goes from this suffering of Mary. I mean, I'll let you hear it. I can't really describe it. It is just simply these little jewels that pop out in harmonies that are mind-blowing. This is the Stabat Mater of Karol Szymanowski, Polish composer. that's one of those moments, again, Szymanowski was very religious, that's when the inspiration is beyond normal musical language. I want to skip now to Paradise. This is the juicy part. I want to just play two pieces from this. When I was in high school, I was fascinated with Brahms and Bruckner, listened to all of it, studied all of it. Yes, I said high school, when I was 15, 16 years old. And I realized back then that, and I even said it, well, first of all, many historians say this about, there's a saying, Mahler was searching for God. Bruckner found God. It's quite a good way of saying it. I just want to play the smallest part of the Adagio from the 8th Symphony. This is not a religious piece. There's no choir. He does not say anything about that. But ever since I first was listening to this, I thought, this music is as close to God as I'll ever get. I can literally imagine St. Peter taking me by the hand and introducing me to God. When you hear the strings and the harp come in, it is heaven. So this is the Adagio from Bruckner's 8th Symphony. That, in my mind, is meeting God. It's not a requiem, it's not a mass, it's not anything else. That is seeing God's face. The other Paradise piece, and by the way, there's so many pieces I'm skipping. The Messiah, many famous pieces. I'm trying to go for pieces that you don't know. The other Paradise piece has one of the most gorgeous endings in music. And that is the Duruflé Requiem. Has anybody sung that? The Duruflé Requiem? Does anybody know it? French composer. He didn't write very much music, but the Requiem is a masterpiece. Anyway, the last movement is not part of the regular Requiem. He added something in, which is called In Paradiso, in Paradise. It's only a couple of minutes long. I'm going to play you the whole thing, but I want you to pay attention to the last part. As the choir sings, basically what it's saying is, a choir of angels will greet you in heaven. And as Lazarus, who was also somebody who rose from the dead, Lazarus was a pauper, a very poor man. As he was a poor man, he will also greet you, and you will have eternal rest. Beate Requiem. I just want to play you at the very end, so you pay attention to that when it comes, because it is such a special ending. Again, remember that the title is In Paradise, and he makes it perfect how paradise should be. So this is just the very last measure that the choir will sing just. Special chord. And then the last. Eternal. For those theorists out there what that exactly is an F sharp, major 7, minor 7, major 9 chord, right? With this, the major 9 up there, and it just floats away to nothing. It is truly the entry into paradise. This is Paradise of Duruflé's Requiem. They're singing a Gregorian chant. And now the whole choir is going to come, and this is when they say, choirs of angels will greet you. I mean, seriously. I sung that when I was first 15 years old, and every time I hear that, it just captures me. Mr. President, I have to kick you out. Or Janet will be very angry with me.
Yeah, enjoy your birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, now that he's gone, now I can be myself. Now let's get into some of the funner stuff. Death. Dies irae. Can anybody tell me what dies irae means? Dies. Day. Irae. Wrath. Or day of reckoning. So, the way that Christianity works is that when you die, you will be judged. Were you a good person or were you not a good person? There's two ways to go. That way, right? So, let's look, I want to look at a couple of pieces of the Requiem, which is not just a mass of the dead, it is the mass of dead us. It's not the death of Christ. It is the mass of the dead of us. So we sing it when one of us dies. I come back to Benjamin Britten. I'm going to play two little pieces of Benjamin Britten. Why? What was one of the biggest works he ever made? Anybody? Has to do with what I'm talking about. Oh, wait here. The War Requiem, did I hear someone say? You're right. The War Requiem. Now the War Requiem is not a pure requiem. It's based on the poetry of someone who was killed in World War I. It's written just after World War I, full of the brutality of World War I. The first thing I want to play is actually the very, very, very end of it, which is just an a cappella choir, but it is surrounded by these tritones, both in bells and the choir, throughout. It is the most chilling, haunting. I mean, this requiem, then you just feel ghosts. You feel the ghosts of the battlefield, of the warriors, until the very, very last chord. And finally, and one of the huge surprise, it finally reaches a moment of resolution, but not until the end. When that finally comes, it is sort of shocking, the harmony it goes to. So this is the very end of Britten War Requiem. Very cool. Now here it is. Who's beeping? Who's beeping?
他们要去上做公务，
去
那个
上课。
那个他们课程有要出去，
Well, stop it, whatever it is.
The three of them. No, I have to go.
No, I said, what is beeping?
For the car. When they leave, they have to, yeah.
Anyway, let's just listen to that ending once again, so I won't be disturbed. And this is after 2 hours of blood and death, and this piece is really, which I'm going to play you a little of now. Here is now the Dies Irae of Britain. Let me just explain a little how this works. That is, Day of Reckoning, Day of Wrath, and then I won't go through the whole Dies Irae, but one part is Tuba Miro. Tuba Miro, which doesn't mean the tubas are going to play. Tuba actually means trumpets. The trumpets will sound. And when the trumpets sound, Jericho's wall will break, and it's going to be a whole bunch of judgment. But that's why you're going to hear all this brass going around, is because the tuba mira. But this is extremely powerful, the Dies Irae of Britain. Terrifying. That's what you've got to go through. You're going to get judged. In the Mozart Requiem, is the Mozart Requiem an early piece of Mozart? Anybody? Yes? Mozart Requiem is an early piece of Mozart?
早期的吗？
No. It's a middle piece of Mozart.
中期的吗？
What is it?
没关系，讲出来，是中期还是晚期？Late period.
I'd say late. When you write it on your deathbed, you're getting towards the end. That's pretty late. In the Requiem is one section called the Confutatis. Confutatis maledictis, flammis, acribis, addictus, voca me cum benedictis. And so forth and so forth. This is interesting because basically what this means, it's the same idea. When the bad people have to be judged, they're going to get it hard. The next line of that is, so please, merciful Creator, don't be too hard on me. Yeah, I'm on my knees, I'm trying to be good, right? But how Mozart does that is he's going to divide the men and women. The men are going to be extremely violent, and the women are going to sound like pleading angels, like this. So that it is completely black and white. It's the most perfect effect. one is maybe the most famous dies irae of them all, and that is Verdi Requiem. Now this is real hell and fury. This is Dante's hell. This is Italian hell. This means something for the Italians, right? Because of Dante. Dante explained in how many circles are there in Dante's hell? Dante,
地狱有几层？
what's a circle? What's hell?
啊？8层，
Huh?
3层，3层，3, 9, 18,
9.
9.
There are 3 books. There's Paradise. It's like a sandwich, right? Paradise, Purgatory, and Hell. There's 3 books. And this is only Hell. But we knew that from my class, I'm sure, when we talked about Verdi. Anyway, this is for sure the most famous dies irae. So this is from Verdi Requiem. Swirling and forever suffering. Dante. And like I said, that has a particular meaning for Italians because of Dante. Because when you read these things, I mean, it is billions of people just swirling around, suffering for eternity. And that's what all this motion is. I won't ask you to name the 9 circles here, but you can send that to me in an email. I'm just going to play one for you from, now going back to the suffering of Christ. This is, well, right there. I don't know how many people have seen this. You might not even know what it is. Anybody understand what this is? Does anybody know what this is? Cross. Crucifix. Right? He has been nailed there. You can't see it, but on the side here, he has been stabbed in the side by one of the Russian soldiers. And he will stay there for 3 days and die slowly. We're going to get to that in a minute. This idea of suffering, it's not that Catholicism is so depressing, that part's a little depressing. But you have to go through that to get to the next stage. After that, after 3 days, he rose up from the dead, booked a business class ticket, and went all the way to heaven. where he lives at the right hand of God ever since. If we follow in his way, we can have the same benefits. But the idea, that symbol, and also the symbol of Mary, are the two most important in the Catholic Church. And it is an integral part of any Mass, any Requiem, anything, is this moment of, well, it's called, there's two things. There's the Passion of Christ. The Passion, does anybody know what passion means? It's a very strange word. Right? Oh, I met this boy last week, and oh, well, you know, things were going well, and we got really passionate. Right? Things were really good. I really love him. We're really passionate. My hands are all over him. That's passion. If you turn that over, passion is also to suffer. It's the same word in Latin. So the passion of Christ, believe me, he's not having a good time. It's the suffering of Christ. And almost certainly that great time you have with your boyfriend from last week will turn to the other side pretty soon anyway. So remember, you heard it here, right? The passion is suffering. So I'm going to go back to the Bach B minor Mass, as I said, which is one of the great moments of all religious music. This is the Crucifixus, and you can feel the weight, you can feel the heaviness of it. Just imagine, everything is gravity. You've got to sit there, right? And I don't want to be too graphic, but how they usually died was that they suffocated, because they would hang there so long that their chest was just, they couldn't breathe anymore because they couldn't get enough air in, right? It was a bad way to go, but you can feel this heaviness, the weight and the suffering. It's brilliant by Bach. This is Bach B minor Mass. Semester is appoggiatura. We all know that from orchestra, which I'm sure you all know by now. Appoggiatura. Porco miseria, I bet you still don't know that. But this, when you have a dissonant which then resolves into something. This whole thing is nothing but dissonances and appoggiaturas that sometimes resolve where they should, sometimes they resolve into the next harmony. It's just simply brilliant. But anyway, appoggiatura is the key word here. one of the most miraculous harmonic writing in the history of music. If we were to analyze that, where it should go but doesn't, and then goes somewhere else, and then should, etc., and that ending, forget about it, right? This is Bach, this isn't Britain. Anyway, we're almost done. I want to go to something a little bit unusual, and that is more personal depictions of religious works. It's not a normal requiem or normal mass, Gloria, Stabat Mater, all these things. The first one is Brahms. I don't know if you know that Brahms wrote a requiem. It's called a German requiem, which means right there we know it's not going to be in Latin, and it's not really even a translation of the Latin text. I'm only going to play you 1 minute of it, but the reason why I'm playing it is because Brahms wrote it for a very specific reason. He wrote it after his mother died. Personal piece. Happens to be one of the greatest pieces ever written now, but it was just after his mother died. Right? And the part that I'm going to play you is just the beginning. Pay attention how, what's melancholy?
Lonely.
No, not lonely.
Sad and lonely.
Sort of sad, not quite sad, but almost sad. Melancholy is like that. That's melancholy. Listen for how melancholic it is. Made possible not only by the harmonies, but also by a special thing that is not there. There's no choir. I'm not going to play you a choir part, only the orchestra part. But what makes something special because it's not there in this whole movement. There are no violins. And watch what a difference that makes in how things, the effect that you get from it. Taiwan dollars right now who can name me another piece of Brahms that has no violins. Pick. Oh, it's money, they'll understand. Pick.
No violin.
No violin.
Brahms有哪些？
Oh, the second serenade, you say. You're right.
Which one?
The second serenade. Not the first serenade, the second serenade. No violins. Now, the last piece I want to play for you is, as I said, this part is sort of something personal. Not my personal, but personal for composers. You have your papers, now you can watch those. Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber in the end of the 1960s wrote a musical named Jesus Christ Superstar. Very successful. The idea was not, I think they're both Jewish. So it wasn't to say, oh, let's write a requiem, or, well, actually, Weber did write a requiem later, I think. This is not a religious piece. This is a piece about Jesus Christ, the man. Right? First he has to be a man, he has to live, he has to die, then he can go on. Until then, he has to suffer like the rest of us. And in the Bible, in the Second Testament, in the Old and New Testament, we read about all of this. Jesus is betrayed by who? Judas. Who said that? Not bad, not bad. Betrayed by Judas. How much was his payment? Doesn't matter. 30 pieces of silver. Was betrayed by Judas, and what happens is that the night before Jesus is going to be arrested by the Romans, he spends the night with all of his friends, all of the disciples, in the Garden of Gethsemane. Right? And they all just have a good time, they sleep, they don't really think about it. Of course, he's nervous. He's really nervous, because tomorrow's it. This is the last night he has on earth. So I want to play you the entire song, and that's what the translation is there. Because you're going to see, as I said, this is not a religious work. It just shows the man. But it shows that he's saying, okay, you keep telling me I have to die and do all of this, You're really good at telling and saying when and where. You haven't told me why. Hello. You're supposed to be my father? What have I done? I've been trying to help you, and this is the thanks I get? I have to suffer through this? For what? Give me a sign. Say something. So it's all of these doubts that he's going through. So psychologically, the song is very powerful because he's going up and down. It really is a powerful song. So this is called Gethsemane. A nice easy word to say, Gethsemane, from Jesus Christ Superstar.
Take this cup away from me, for I don't want to taste its poison, feel it burn me. I have changed, I'm not as sure as when we started, when I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. Listen, surely I've exceeded expectations. Tried for 3 years, seems like 30. Could you ask as much from any other man? Let them hate me, hurt me, make me to their dream. I wanna know, my God. I wanna know, my God. I wanna see, my God. I wanna see, my God. Why? matter anymore. Have to know, I have to know my Lord. Have to know, I have to know my Lord. Have to see, I have to see my Lord. Have to see, I have to see my Lord. If I die, it would be my reward. If I die, it would be my reward. Have to know my Lord. Have to know, I have to know my Lord. Show me now that I would not be killed in vain. Show me just a little of your omnipresent reign. Show me there's a reason for you wanting me to die. You promise to keep up where or how, but not so hard to find. Just watch me die. See how I die. See why then am I scared to finish what I started? But you started. I didn't start it. Not thy will is hard, but you hold every card. I will drink your cup of poison, nail me to your cross and break me, bleed me, beat me, kill me. Take me now before I change my mind.
Pretty cool, huh? The psychology of it. And he's right in everything he says. It's like, so we'll go on what we started. Wait a minute, you started this. I didn't start it. This wasn't my idea. Right? Anyway, with that, that's the end of the lecture. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good day. Thank you.